Electrocast.
We know what we see. I mean, we can all be distracted, and social media and the constant dopamine hits that we now get, notifications on our phone.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's all working against us.
Yeah.
Even the most disciplined and focused, it's hard to fight our chemicals.
Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Well, I hope all is well with you today. It is another beautiful day here in North Carolina, and this episode is brought to you by our sponsors, Jeremy Clevenger Fitness and the Sasquatch Flag Company. Both of these sponsors help me bring these shows to you each and every week, so I encourage you to click on their links below and check them out. I have another great show lined up for you today, but before we get started, I just want to remind you to check out the leadership books I've written on either Amazon or my website, johnsrennie.com. This year, I'm offering a new way to purchase all of my books for a discount. I've bundled the books into what I call the Qualified Watchstander series, and you get all 3 books for 15% off the individual prices. This offer is only available on my website, so check it out if you're looking to step up your leadership game this year. Also, I wanted to remind you that Deep Leadership is ranked as a top 100 management podcast in the U.S., and I wanted to thank each and every one of you for listening in each week and sharing these episodes with your friends. You have helped this podcast grow into a top-performing show, so thank you very much. Well, that is it. Today we're going to be talking about the problem of chasing squirrels. My guest is Ted Bradshaw. Ted is the author of Stop Chasing Squirrels, 6 Essentials to Find Your Purpose, Focus, and Flow. And in this episode, we discuss how you can stop being distracted as a leader and focus on your true purpose. This is an important message that every leader needs to hear. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20 plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Ted Bradshaw. Ted served as an executive with Xerox and IBM, then left the Fortune 500 world to explore the thrills of entrepreneurship. What he found was a long string of success that looked great on the surface, but underneath it all, he felt anxious, exhausted, and stressed, chasing money wherever it led, and wondering why he never felt fulfilled. Along his journey, Ted gained valuable insight into how a person can achieve fulfillment in all aspects of life. He shares those insights in his best-selling book, Stop Chasing Squirrels, 6 Essentials to Find Your Purpose, Focus, and Flow. And I am excited to have him on the show to help us learn how to stop chasing those squirrels. So, Ted, welcome to the show.
John, thank you very much. I am stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you, and the title of your book just makes me smile because as an entrepreneur, I chased a lot of squirrels. So I'm hoping that I learn and our listeners learn how we can avoid this. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
All right. Well, I've definitely walked the walk. So we'll see if I can share some of my experiences and help your listeners.
Absolutely. So tell us about, I worked at big companies for 22 years before I started my business. Sounds like you did the same thing, worked at big companies, then you started your business. Tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and how that led you to write this book, Stop Chasing Squirrels.
Yeah, well, I just like you said, I started with a couple of big corporations, so Xerox and IBM out of school. Great for the training, great for kind of giving me the idea of what does business look like. Didn't like the bureaucracy. So right away, that should have been a clue, that it's like, oh, really? We have to do it the same way, the same time, every time. And is tomorrow going to look the same as today? So I had an itch pretty early on. And I started my first business about 5 years after I was with those companies. And I knew when I started my first one because it was connected to Xerox. So it was we were a Xerox agency, and so we thought, my partners and I, that there was maybe a 10-year runway that we had for using paper. This is back, and paper's still around today, so it wasn't quite that crystal ball-y. But I'm thinking about how even from the first business I started, it was like, I want the next one before I even had the first one even started. And sure enough, my mission was to diversify us. And so that's what I did. Started a software company, and we got lucky. Our timing was good. Our product was good. We were the first to connect homes to classrooms for K-12 schools over the internet. And we had tremendous growth. And so I figured, it wasn't easy, but it seemed like there wasn't a lot of challenges. And we got lucky with our timing on selling it. We sold it in 2007. That's when the problem started, though, because you figure, okay, I was successful here, I can be successful there. And fast forward from those first 2 startups, John, there were 6 after that in crazy industries. I even dabbled in nuclear medicine, and I was not a good science student. So I had no business being there. But what really moved me to write this book is I knew I had to go through those experiences. I look at it now, and I like to joke. I said, there's 2 types. We classify, repeat offenders as serial something, right? And there's a really bad one, the serial fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And then there's also the serial entrepreneur. And so it's not really a badge of honor. It's what the heck was I looking for? Why? So I found my purpose, and I sort of, I like to say I just woke up and found it one day, but this was the journey that led me there, which I hope we talk about today. And that just happened to be coaching others, coaching other leaders, high achievers, those that are growth oriented. And for the first time, I saw I wasn't alone. There were many, many others that felt the same way I did. And I was looking at these successful entrepreneurs going, well, what more would you want? Why are you still unfulfilled? And I thought, holy smokes, if I've experienced this and almost 100% of the people I'm engaged with have experienced it, others must be. And so that's where I decided, I said, everybody can find this purpose thing. It can be done. And so I figured I'm just going to get my thoughts out there and hopefully help someone else maybe struggle with this.
I think it's great. So who's the book primarily for, and who do you think is going to benefit by reading it?
Well, this is shifting.
Yeah.
As the business owners and the entrepreneurs and your listeners will appreciate it. The tighter we can make our target market, the better, right? If we can speak to our audience. So I originally wrote it for these visionary entrepreneurs. So these 20 ideas a week type of people that just constantly have new ideas. So it was written for that person. Mm. Since the book's been released, though, I've been getting approached by, leadership team members that are maybe on a career trajectory up, and maybe they want to own their own business one day, or maybe they just want to grow within the business they're in. And I had this amazing conversation the other day with someone who told me his 20-year-old daughter has been seeing a therapist. Mm. And
wow,
they can't talk about what they say in the sessions, right? It's privilege. And he really wants to know because he wants to help her. Mm. And so we just started to talk about grounding, mental health, being okay with who you are. And so, John, I'm still working on who the ideal target for this is, but that's who I started writing it for. And now I just see it as someone that really feels like they want to achieve something in their life. Either they're a high achiever now, want to be one, or are on their track to be one, but they've suffered from not feeling fulfilled or satisfied despite their successes. So that's who I'm hoping to reach.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a big group of people.
It is. It is. I'm going to have to narrow it down one day, but
it's a big target market for sure.
It sure is.
So where does the term chasing squirrels come from, and what are these squirrels that people are chasing?
So there's 2 places that I saw this in action. And the first one was watching my 7-year-olds, and we were playing soccer in the backyard. And we had this, intense, at least I had this intense game going on with my 7-year-old. And so we're engaged in this. And literally a squirrel went bounding out from under a tree, and it stopped my son, Spencer, dead in his tracks, literally. And he's a competitive kid. So for him to abandon the net, right, and risk getting scored on, and literally all his attention went to that squirrel, and it was instant, and that's the definition of chasing squirrels. Another one will pop out, same thing would happen, right? So there'd be all these squirrels jumping around, distracting him. Fast forward, so that was probably about 10 years, what was it now, 15 years ago now. About 5 years ago, I was sitting in a session. I coach leadership teams and entrepreneurs, and there's a visionary. And I learned that day to not sit visionaries where they're facing a window to the outside of any type.
Yes.
And because we'd be engaged in these conversations. It's his business. We'd be engaged in these conversations, and I could just see him starting to drift off. And there would be things going, like just cars driving by, birds flying by, completely distracted, frequently. And I said, that's it. I've seen this before. Where have I seen this before? Spencer chasing squirrels.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from. We got to stop chasing all these squirrels.
It's funny because we actually had an employee at one time that we worked with his nickname was Squirrel because he was distracted easily. It's funny that his nickname was Squirrel. He knew it. Like everyone, he had a little brass squirrel sitting on his desk. I mean, it was like everyone called him Squirrel.
Yeah.
Distracted easily.
Yeah, we know them when we see them, right? We know them when we see them. And we can all be distracted, and social media and the constant, dopamine hits that we now get, notifications on our phone.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's all working against us. Yeah. Even the most disciplined and focused, it's hard to fight our chemicals, right? It's hard to fight our biology. And when you get that little zap of dopamine, when you check, what's the latest thing going on in Facebook?
Yeah.
Really nothing new, but it's new to you. And so and advertisers and marketers, they count on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. And that's the next question is, I was going to say is, why do you think people in our society today are chasing squirrels and living without a purpose? And I think you've answered part of it, but where we are distracted and there's lots of things that we can put our attention to. And so we don't work. And I'm assuming what you're going to say is that we don't work on the things that are really important, and we don't focus on a purpose because we can get distracted every day.
Yeah. We could probably have a 3-hour discussion on this, John.
Yeah.
There are depths to this, and it crosses there's a couple of things I think going on right now. Certainly in, more of the Western world, or advanced countries where once your food is taken care of and once your safety is taken care of, your money has been relatively easy to come by for most, the unemployment, all of the things that we've seen probably in the last 20 years in the Western world has been growth, more. And so what happens when no longer are we worried about where the next meal is coming from, or am I going to be, warm tonight when I'm sleeping? We start to look for things that are going to entertain us. We start to look for, all right, well, now what do I do? And so, of course, with the connections that now the internet has made, we can get instant information about anything we want immediately. And we can see things that are going on the other side of the world that before there could be wars going on, there could be travesties going on. We weren't connected to it, right? So we just sort of saw what was going on in our environment around us. And if we happen to have a decently safe and happy environment, that was our outlook on life. That was our worldview. Well, what's happened now that we have access to all of the potential injustices, it can overwhelm us. And, we know what the news cycle's all about, keeping our attention, feeding us this stuff. We have to be, something really bad, if they can't even keep talking about it for 5 days because by then we're moving on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's created this perpetual, there must be more, this isn't good enough, there's something wrong and broken with the world. There's something wrong and broken with me. And and then we can compare ourselves to other people along the way. And I think the overload of information has been a huge cause of what we now can really, the feed, right? We can scroll forever. And it's in different opinions. You can be doing some research on one area and literally with the click of a mouse get a 180 polar view on it.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of those voices aren't qualified in their opinions, and we don't know the difference between an opinion or something that might be based in fact. And so I think this is what's really started to lead us to not just that visionary entrepreneur that just has a bunch of ideas, but the overwhelm for, quite frankly, a lot of us when we're trying to decide, well, what's the right decision that I should be making right now?
Yeah. I was at dinner with some friends Tuesday night, and we were just having this exact conversation. It's like the world has evolved to the point where we have access to so much information, and yet our brains haven't evolved to be able to handle it, right? So we are built for being in a small community, right? And having a few family and friends around us and be able to process that. We can't process everything that's happening in the world in real time. I don't think our brains can handle it.
We can't. And here's the irony. If you really look at some important stats, like let's say child mortality in developing countries, it's never been better. It's never been better. And by a lot of measures, the world is better. We're in a safer world, generally speaking. More people are out of poverty. So there's a lot to celebrate. That's not what we hear about, though.
No, not at all. Yeah,
that's not what we hear about. Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. And I'm really, and as a business person, I definitely feel that we can get distracted, and that's not good if we're trying to build a business or we're trying to accomplish big things. If we're constantly chasing, squirrels, we're not going to ever get the big things done. And I think that's the challenge. And so I was going to ask you, how do we begin now to realize that it's happening within us, and how do we begin to stop chasing squirrels and get some focus in our lives?
Well, I love what you said about the conversation you were having the other night and how we're really designed to be community oriented with a relatively small group. To where we can actually connect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the benefit of being connected globally is that we can now find our people. They don't have to be in our neighborhood.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is not defined by geography at all. And this is where the opportunity lies for those of us that have chased squirrels, have big ambitions. Well, no longer are we bound by our geography, or no longer are we necessarily bound by our education or bound by our experiences up until this point. We're able to sit back and take a look at where can we apply our best selves. And so what I write about in the book is we can have an exponential impact by going very, very deep and very narrow. So, and that deepness is really around purpose, as we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. And I pose a question. High achievers are often described as driven people. And if I asked you, John, would you describe yourself as someone who's driven?
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone I talk to says that. You're obsessed. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm guessing a lot of people on this show.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And I also am one of those. And as I write about in the book, that drivenness drove me to panic attacks is what happened. Yeah. And the stress bucket is also something you were asked about.
Right? Yeah.
And you have a military background, and so you know this better than I do, but I'm thinking there's a difference between soldiers that can handle a certain level of pressure and then soldiers that can handle another level of pressure. And then maybe the elite and the best of the best are the ones that find their way into situations where it's like, holy smokes, they need to have a huge capacity for stress. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're born with a capacity for stress. And some of us that find their way into those elite groups that can put those talents and God-given talents to work have larger stress buckets, but nonetheless, they still have to find ways of empty it. For us mere mortals, we have to as well. Yeah. Right. And this is where exercise comes in. This is where eating well comes in. All the things that when life fills our stress buckets up, we're doing things to empty them. Because if it gets too full and we're not emptying them, that's when the smallest thing can trigger us. And so what I've defined is some of those things that fill our stress buckets up are negative drivers that we have been influenced by that are affecting our decisions and maybe have been affecting the course of our lives in some extreme cases. And so I've identified 6 of these drivers. So guilt can be a driver, things we did or didn't do, and we don't let go of that. Anger, resentment, make some decisions on things like that. Materialism, well, very self-explanatory. Constant need for approval, people-pleasing. Many of these achievers and visionaries are people-pleasers. There's a jealousy or an envy factor here, and there's a fear factor to this. Things that have happened in our lives or we've seen happen that hold us back. And so if we really inspect those drivers and take a look at what negative aspects they may have led to in our life, we can choose now to create some awareness around, well, what if I chose a different way of being? And so I choose guided, John. And so I choose to be guided rather than driven. When we're guided, we make a choice of who we're following. We make a choice not to be driven, but we take control ourselves. Yeah. And the transformation that can occur, it's as simple as taking the opposite of one of those drivers and seeing what it looks like. And so, for example, the opposite of fear, one of the opposites is abundance. Yeah. And if we think about that in terms of replacing fear with abundance and now start to use that to give us the momentum to move forward, it gives us a healthier mindset. And so that's the first step in to identify purpose is understand those drivers, many of them from your past. Yeah. That leads us to today. So all of those things that make you who you are today, and I call this the temperature check. So take an inventory of your talents, your experiences, what motivates you, your personality, and your strengths. Those together, if we're really honest with ourselves and we take a look at what those are, we may not be in the right seat in our organization or in our life to take full advantage of those things. Yeah. And so that's the second part of purpose is get really clear on those that taking that temperature check.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Leadership skills are like any other skills. You need to practice them to get better at them. Best-selling leadership author John S. Rennie knows this. That's why he's written a new book called You Have the Watch. It's a guided journal for leaders designed to take you through an entire year of leadership training. By the end of the year, you will master 50 of the most important leadership skills. If you want to have a greater impact on the results and people in your organization, go to youhavethewatch.com and pick up your copy today.
This episode is brought to you by Jeremy Clevenger Fitness. As a high-performing leader, you know that leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about leading by example. And for most people, the one area that they're lacking when it comes to leading by example is their health and fitness. By improving your health and fitness, every other area of your life improves. But how do you get and stay fit as a busy leader? Well, you do what you've always done. You hire the best person for the job. Don't struggle on your own. Put Jeremy Clevenger on your team. Jeremy will work with you to take your physique, mindset, nutritional habits, and more to the next level with his step-by-step, all-inclusive coaching program. Now, I've worked with Jeremy for the past year, and I'm in the best shape of my life. If you want to step up your game, reach out to Jeremy at apexperformancesystems.com to find out more and get your initial consultation scheduled with him today. This episode is brought to you by the Sasquatch Flag Company. The Sasquatch Flag Company is a family-owned business in New England that builds hand-carved American flags from seasoned white pine. Each flag is hand-built and each star on the flag is hand-hammered and chiseled. No two flags are alike. They offer a variety of flag designs to honor the police, military, firefighters, dispatchers, and search and rescue personnel, to name a few. These stunning handmade flags look great in an office, a studio, the back porch, or above the fireplace mantle. They make the perfect gift for the veteran, first responder, or patriot in your life. Now, I love these flags, and I've been giving them as gifts for years, and I was a customer long before they became a sponsor of the show. I can't recommend them enough. So if you're looking for that perfect, uniquely American-made gift to give away, or if you want to treat yourself, go to SasquatchFlags.com and get your order in today.
The go forward piece. This is where we all should be optimistic, because we can, regardless of what's happened up until this point, good, bad, or otherwise, we can set the intention for the future. And so I call this the getting really clear on what it is you should be doing and why you're doing it. And I use a tool called the Why Clarifier. It's just simply getting really clear on what your core values are, your personal values. What are your priorities, truly? If you say you're about family, are you working 80 hours a week? And really question that.
Yeah.
What is your legacy going to be? Your eulogy? What's being said? Think that through, right? When it's all said and done, probably isn't about the nice house or the car.
Not at all.
What message are you confident enough to be able to stand at the highest mountaintop and scream out because you know it's the right message and you feel it? And then, of course, like you and I talked about, I'm still working on my community, but who's your community? Who are you going to serve?
Yeah.
And so those are some of the questions in the Why Clarifier. So what I try to explain in the book is take an inventory of those things, stuff all that in your backpack, start the journey. You're going to overpack. Just know that going in. But as you move towards that purpose, you'll start to see what you don't need anymore, what you can start stripping out of the backpack. And rather than purpose becoming wider and wider and wider and larger, it actually becomes more concentrated. And the more concentrated it becomes, the simpler it is for you to know when you're inside of it or working towards it, and the bigger impact you're going to have. You have an exponential impact when you can have that concentrated effect. And so those are some of the tools that I teach on how to get really clear on just exactly why are you here and where you want to go.
I really like that. And I think, if I look at my life, one of the things I've been able to do is find my purpose. And when I have, and that's what I was going to ask you, when people do find their purpose and when they do spend the time and do the exercise and they narrow down where, what it is they've been placed on this earth to do, and they find that purpose, what's it like for them? What's the transformation mentally and physically to the person that finds their purpose and is working to achieve that purpose on a daily basis?
That's a great question. And there's a handful of things that come to mind, but let me just pick three. And the first one that jumped into my mind is the ability to be 100% present in the moment.
Yeah.
When you're in your purpose, and just like we're talking right now, and I can tell even with you right now, there's nothing else. You shared with me the nice grill you had earlier today.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not getting the sense you're thinking, I wish I was at the grill right now.
No.
Right? Or thinking about what's going to happen in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We can be 100% present. When we're present, we notice things. When we're present, those that are around us know that our focus is on them. And it also does something magical to our mental health. Being in the present moment makes it impossible for us to be thinking about the past. When we think or dwell on the past, that leads to depression. That's where depression comes from. It also makes it impossible for us to be worried about what's coming next.
Yeah.
Because that leads to anxiety. So that's probably the biggest benefit of purpose. Present moment, it allows you to strip depression and anxiety away. This probably the second thing that comes to mind for me, John, is it's where you will have the highest impact on those around you. You will start to see that people appreciate the actions you take, the words that you speak. It resonates with them. that will literally say, wow, thank you. That really helped me. Whatever it is you do. So you really get this sense that you're helping others and you'll feel good because of that. And you know you're in the right place.
Yeah.
And then the third benefit, I would say that it just really allows us to make choices in our life that give us the best chance for moving forward. And not because we can guarantee the best choice every time, but when we make our choices, our decisions, big or small, with our purpose in mind, no matter what the outcome of that decision is, we're going to feel aligned with it. It's very hard to feel a regret or I shouldn't have done that. It changes the lens from shouldn't have, regret to, what can I learn from that? How will I do it differently next time? But you continue to move forward. So those are probably the three most...
And that's super powerful. If you've got that going on in your life and you're going to feel a lot better about going to bed at night, that you feel like you're on mission. And even like you said, even if you make a mistake, it's more like, okay, what can I learn from it? Versus like a regret that you're doing something that is not aligned with your purpose and you wasted a day or you wasted a month chasing a squirrel, right? And versus doing what your mission is. Yes. One thing I want to ask you is, you mentioned physical health in terms of health and fitness as being a part of that. And I just wanted to have you talk a little bit more about that. What's the importance of health and fitness in the world, in the world which we're talking about, as far as chasing squirrels and having focus? How does that help us as leaders be more effective?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot going on here, and so when we talk about that fitness level, I look at that in three ways. There's physical, there's mental, and there's spiritual.
Yeah.
And so we have to be fit in those areas, and I can completely appreciate if somebody doesn't have the physical ability to do something because of an accident or something that, then it's going to be obviously difficult to go run the marathon if you physically can't go run the marathon. I appreciate that. But when we can be our best and work towards tending, and I call them the 6 essentials, the mind, the body, soul, nutrition, money, and relationships.
Yep.
Specifically speaking, with respect to the body, if we just simply look at the physical side of it, when we are physically strong, when we have, and this doesn't mean you have to run marathons. This could literally be going for a walk.
Yeah.
But taking care of our physical body, I've had some back problems, and I've been a pretty active guy all my life, and likely due to some of that activity. And there was a time where it was really starting to have an effect mentally. And it was starting to lead to me being less than my best self. And so that's why that physical side of it, so that you can have the energy to do all the things that your heart and your soul are telling you can be doing. And so we have to take care of this body that's our vessel to do it. As far as I know right now, John, if you don't have your mouth and you don't have your eyes, and your arms to press the mouse, it's not going to be as easy to fulfill that purpose. But again, caveat being, if somebody doesn't have those capabilities, channeling that through the other talents and God-given attributes that they have, obviously is relevant for them.
One of the things I'm thinking about when you're talking about it is everything you're talking about is sort of opposite of what we're being told to do as a society. We're told to check Twitter, to get all your alerts on your phone, to keep up with the latest news, to be emotionally involved in our political candidates, to eat whatever we want and to drink whatever we want and just live life to the fullest with no regard. And what you're saying is probably the best way just to stay focused and be on mission is to do the opposite, is to sort of take away those distractions, is to focus on your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health. And this is sort of like opposite of what we're being told is what we should be doing. It's interesting that just listening to you, I'm seeing sort of the opposite of what we're faced with in society today.
Yeah. We're up against it, John. We are up against it. We'll see bits and pieces of it, but I think fundamentally, we're not here just to take up space. We're not here just to, walk around, consume as much as we can, have as much fun as we can for a very finite period of time. And then that's the end of it.
Yeah.
I tell you what, at least that's my belief.
Yeah.
If we were, what's the point of anything?
Yeah.
Why get bent out of shape about anything? So clearly there's something else going on, because people are getting bent out of shape, and the level of discourse that's not positive, and it's hurtful, and the way, and here's my guilty admission, and I'm not gonna tip my hat to which end of the political spectrum I'm on, but there was a time that I watched some Fox News, and I pulled myself away from it for about a year. Okay. And it's entertainment, right? And here's what happened. It was like a soap opera, John. It was literally, it was a year. I'm not kidding. It was a full year. I turned it back on. The subject matter changed. The talking head and what the talking head was saying did not.
Yeah.
And it was still the same message that was being delivered. I'm thinking, holy smokes, so what do I need this for?
Yeah.
And I think we can say that you can go to CNN and say that. You could go to whatever your favorite, source of information is. And so that's why I think sometimes we get confused, and it's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, just speaking for myself, I unplugged from politics before Trump became president, just because it was a crazy election cycle, and I just unplugged, and I've been unplugged ever since. So, I'm working on 6 years now or whatever. And boy, it's a great feeling. Like, I don't, like, people tell me something, oh, you should be upset about this. I'm like, I'm not. It doesn't affect my mission. And so I'm not worried about it. I'll pay attention to things that might, some geopolitical things, some banking things, some financial things that may affect what I'm trying to do in the world. But I'm not going to let myself get angry about something that happened in Florida or in California, and who's to blame and all that. I don't care about that. It's not part of my mission.
Right. And can you imagine if everybody had that, we need to be informed. Right? Let's not, stick our head in the sand and pretend things aren't going on. Can you imagine? It wouldn't matter where someone came from, or yes, it's going to be, they'll be affected by their experiences, their environment. But if we take this open mind, and I think one of the reasons why you're able to do this, John, why you're able to disconnect is, as you've identified, you're clear on your purpose. You're clear on your mission.
Yeah.
And it gives you that filter and that lens. In other words, you don't need these other distractions. And this is what great leaders do. They do very well. Great leaders create openings for people to follow. Right? They say, this is what we need. This is where we need to go. Now you're filling that opening with your purpose. So you have something to put in there. For a large part of the population that has not yet done this work and is wandering aimless, they're the ones, unfortunately, that are the easiest pickings, because smart people out there media knows how to create an opening. They know what to fill it with.
Yeah.
Right. They at least give somebody something to get passionate about, even if they're not sure why they're passionate about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful. I love that. They find the opening. So close that opening with your purpose. And you don't have room for that. And I love that.
Fill it with your purpose. Fill it with your purpose.
I love that. So what final message would you like to leave to the people listening into this conversation?
Well, John, there's no doubt you've got very successful people listening to this. And they're also likely possibly not feeling as fulfilled or satisfied as they could be. And if they're looking around and their life, and by all sense and measures, they can check the boxes on this has been pretty good, but they're still feeling a little bit of a gap, I would just encourage them to just start just doing some of that deeper work on being aware of some of those drivers. Like, are there still some things that are maybe influencing their decisions? Get clear on where are their hearts telling them they should be, and where should they be applying their best selves, and set that intention for the future that will not only benefit them, but will benefit those around them. And I think, well, if we could get all 8 billion of us doing that, John, problems solved.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great, maybe that should be our mission to be able to do that for sure.
Why not?
This is Ted. This has been fantastic. And again, listeners, I highly encourage you to look at this book, Stop Chasing Squirrels, 6 Essentials to Find Your Purpose, Focus, and Flow. I guarantee if you're listening to this podcast, you're chasing the squirrel or two. And this book will help you narrow that down and find your purpose and your focus, and sort of not, and get rid of the frustration of chasing those squirrels, because you rarely catch them, is what I learned.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, Confucius, chase 2 rabbits, catch none.
That's exactly it. That's exactly. So, Ted, how can people find out more about you, the book, and what you do, what services you provide?
TedBradshaw.com is the best place for them to go. I'm on my socials. They can LinkedIn is Ted Bradshaw, Instagram, Facebook will be Ted Bradshaw Co. If someone's interested in going a little bit deeper into this material, at my website, there is an online course. It's a self-paced course. And it's, it's self-paced, so it can take the listener as long as they would like to go through it, but it's designed to be 6 weeks, 2 hours a week, and do the work. And I guarantee by the end of those 6 weeks, you'll be started on your path to purpose. So that's what your listeners, if those that are interested in going a little bit deeper on this, be more than willing to help them with that.
Now, fantastic. We'll go ahead and put links in the show notes for those resources. And leaders, I highly encourage you to check out his website, check out this online course. It's going to help you get focused. It's going to help you eliminate that squirrel chasing, which we all need to do. Even myself now, as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about the squirrels that I've been chasing lately, and I probably need to get a little more focus in my mission. So, Ted, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing this book and the work that you're doing to help leaders kind of get focused. I really appreciate that.
Well, thanks, John. Thanks for the work that you're doing. This is tremendous energy. So keep it up. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.
Welcome to Ringside with Ray and Prince. My name is Ray Leonard Jr.
Oh, is that the set? No, that's just my dad.
My name is Prince Daniels Jr.
Daniels again with a big home touchdown.
On this show, we come to humanize
athletes, entertainers, business executives. We're going to see what makes them tick.
Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll see you there. Peace and power.
Electric acid.
Miles, are you ready to record our promo for Season 2 of the Wanna Bet podcast?
David, have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Miles, we're not here to quote lines from Airplane. We're here to tell people that Season 2 starts August 18th.
But I like Airplane.
I know you do, but Wanna Bet is a sports betting podcast. Each week we bet $1,000 on the NFL teams and games that we love.
Well, that sounds like fun.
It is fun. And last year you picked over 60% of your games correctly.
How'd you do?
We're not talking about that. We are telling people that they can find us every Friday. So no more movie quotes.
Roger.
Electric acid.